Today we are checking out a homestead in Missouri. It is the ultimate homestead. Josh Morris, a retired Army Ranger, is going to give us a tour of his homestead. It's got a bunker earthship house. Everything is run off grid. He's an acclaimed author, wrote a fantastic book on homesteading. Let's go.
So I'm Josh Morris, Homestead Ranger. Welcome to the Ultimate Survival Homestead and Cold Spring Farm. This is a 360-acre homestead. It's a pretty extensive operation. We'll check it out. We'll go see some of our livestock operations on the homestead. We'll check out some of our gardening operations. We have extensive orchards, and we'll even check out some of our renewable energy and our shelter, some of our more solid systems that kind of help take care of the family and also keep us a little bit comfortable and just enjoying life. Welcome. Thanks for coming. Looking forward to showing you around. The house has got the most attention. I mean, people have loved learning about their earth sheltered home. A lot of people were interested more because of the structure and how unique it is. So I went to school for geological engineering. So part of that training included geotechnical work and hydrological work. So it has a double layered shell. It's basically just an underground home with two shells instead of one. This is the earth sheltered home. It's really, for a lot of people, probably the centerpiece of the ultimate survival homestead here. And we started building this 15 years ago. And the way that we did this was we built an internal shell out of block, and we used quick wall, which is like a surface bonding cement. It has little fibers in it, and it comes out, it's actually stronger with its horizontal shear strength than a standard cinder block wall. I'm glad we did it. And then basically we waterproofed that wall. We put up our rigid insulation, and then we put another wall all the way around it. Now in the front, the second wall is just this decorative block. This is a cultured, tumbled concrete block. It's solid. This is very robust. It's approximately 12 inches thick on the outside. If you're familiar with the earth ships in Taos, New Mexico, or other earth ships, that's kind of the improvement that I saw and that I made to this design, was to make it double waterproofing so that you never have to worry about water leaks. Being prepared for different types of disasters, security is one of those things that you want to consider. So in this case, we have metal plating, double doors here in the front, same thing on the windows, as well as bars. And that's just an extra security feature for any contingency that you might plan for. The way that we did that was we used a very heavy, it's kind of a barn rail type track, which has these little trolleys. And those trolleys can support something like 2,000 pounds each. So you can put a fairly heavy steel door on, which slides back and forth. I also have these on all of our windows. And you can see just with a couple of fingers, I can slide that. You keep that track oiled up. And this has been working for years, just as smooth. And then on the inside, there's just a regular door. I'm a big fan of medieval architecture, and so it's really fun when you're building this way. So this is somewhat of a cross section. It gives you just a rough idea of how thick the original concrete roof was. And so this roof, even though it's stuccoed over, you can see it's close to 24 inches thick, and that's on top of your leave-in forms, which are your 6x6 beams. It's consisted of two pours of concrete reinforced with 1-inch rebar. That's massive rebar on a 12-inch grid, right? 12-inch spacing both ways. In the book, Thrive in the Coming Dark Age, How to Build the Ultimate Survival Homestead, while this shows you all aspects of long-term homestead survival, it also details how to build this way. And so you could build a place affordably that could last 500, 1,000 years, who knows, but last through any disaster, certainly. And again, I'm not trying to predict any kind of doom and gloom for anybody, but you know, we did have a tornado right after we finished the house and moved in. And I think we actually just slept through the tornado.
Yeah, we didn't even know what was happening.
Didn't matter at all. Who cares? Tornado, you can go right over the top of the house and you'll be perfectly fine. But we like it. And then the only other really awesome feature that I think adds a lot to this type of building is the passive solar design. So it's facing due south. And what that means is during the winter time, the angle of the sun is going to be much lower, approximately 35 degrees. That means your sunlight in the wintertime is going to go in the windows and it's going to hit the back wall of the house and heat everything up. We actually have some pipes that are in the terrace in front of us, and those pipes let the air in for a passive cooling loop. And you can see one of the cooling pipes. So these pipes are actually plumbed into the house, and so we have this passive cooling loop, and it's approximately 1,000 feet total of pipe. And when we go in the house, I'll show you there's some fans that you can turn on, and it pulls the air from the outside into the house. And you have cool air coming out from the ground. You really want to try to make things as comfortable and pleasant as you can for your spouse. When we started out, we didn't have a lot of comforts, just mostly a lot of hard work. But after 15 years of being at it, we were talking and said, you know, we can't really get away for a vacation because we have all this livestock and responsibilities and pastures and gardens and orchards. So why don't we create a vacation spot right here? At the same time, we were talking about water storage. I said, well, I have a great idea for a 7,500 gallon water storage.
I said, great.
Yeah, she said, sounds good to me. All right, so here we are, we're coming in the chalet portion of the homestead. The interior part of the chalet portion is built with a lot of materials from our own property and other materials that we've salvaged. This is a 12 by 12 white oak post. It's stained dark, but it's white oak. And this came from our property, was milled with a chainsaw mill. The centerpiece of the homestead, of every homestead I'd probably say, is your wood-fired cook stove. On the inside, it has a water jacket that's kind of back on this area. And the water jacket has two pipes that go into it. One of them carries the hot water out into our water tank, and the other pipe carries the cold water back into the stove. And it's not pumped in electrically, it's just a natural thermosiphon. So the hot water naturally rises and the cold water naturally cools. A lot of people are surprised and they kind of wonder, is it going to overheat? And we did put a relief valve on it. Actually, there's two relief valves on this system. Yeah, super simple solution for making hot water in the winter. And you almost feel like you'd be wasting the firewood if you didn't make hot water with your wood fire stove, or that's how we feel about it. So this is our solar power setup. And I've actually installed these for people. I've learned a lot through becoming an installer. The basic setup is you start with your battery bank, and your battery bank powers everything else. You can charge your battery bank with wind, solar, hydro, or even a generator if you need to. In this case, we chose the iron nickel batteries just because they're kind of robust. They can go down to a pretty cold temperature, and you can actually refurbish this time and time again. I probably will refurbish them after 15 years of use. Our solar panels are mounted on the roof. I used really thick cables to bring those in because if I want to expand the system in the future, the copper is already paid for and it's big enough for expansion. Something unusual about this system, it's only 12 volt because there are an abundance of utilities or appliances and lighting that comes in a 12 volt voltage. Not long ago, we decided we wanted to get grid tied as well. That means electric vehicles. That means other types of, appliances, conveniences, kind of that spouse buy-in that you're looking for. And your spouse says, it's time for us to get tied to the grid because I need some regular electric appliances. Then you go ahead and do that and you let your spouse be the boss, right?
Yes.
So that's right. The smart thing to do, and what I advise everyone to do, is make sure you have a off-grid backup, because a lot of people, they'll say, well, there's a solar company that's going to install grid tie solar, but I want to have an off-grid backup. What do I do? Is that automatic? It's not automatic. You need to make sure that you have an off-grid backup in case the grid goes down for a long time or the grid never comes back up again. What are you going to do? All right, so welcome everybody to our raised bed garden.
This is my happy place.
Yeah.
So this year, the best thing, I think zucchini is doing the best this year. As you can see here, I started carrots first. And then I was like, what should I put with the carrots? And then end up putting zucchini, but the zucchini are just taking over the whole raised bed. We have some garlic. You see it's starting to turn brown, so it's probably another week or so I think I'm gonna start pulling. I know a lot of people, they do just slower raised beds because it's gonna be the easiest, to work on. You don't have to bend over. I would definitely say build them up higher. This is like for longevity or your back and everything. This is gonna be the best thing to do.
And all we did to build them is we just measured it on the ground, and then we put these gardening stakes, kind of like these short fencing stakes, and 3 on each side. This is all cedar because it's very rot resistant. And we just used scraps that weren't really suitable for anything else. And we went ahead and lined it with plastic because if you don't, then the dirt's going to come out through the cracks.
Then you see over there we have Swiss chard, one of my favorites.
I love it. I think it's super nutrient dense. And since it comes right here from our yard, we know that there's no chemicals, pesticides in it.
Now over here I have a lot of peppers because in this family we love peppers. My 5-year-old, he comes around, sees a pepper, says, can I have one? He just grabs it out. If you ever had kale chips, you should try them. You just wash it, slice it in pieces, throw in a baking sheet with some olive oil, salt and pepper, put them in the oven until they get crispy. It's like eating chips. Can't miss and having a herb garden, some rosemary, basil, some sage. Over here we have a little arches with some cucumbers. So this is a great way to have a little arches to grow around. And then we can't go without our sweet corn for summer barbecue.
And really, if everyone had a raised bed garden, then there would never be a shortage of produce in the United States, and you wouldn't have to ship it across the country. Okay, so here's our 6-week update after the original video showing just how well our organic survival homestead garden is growing. Corn has not only tasseled out, but it's been pollinated. Little ears are starting to form. Use no pesticides whatsoever. That's poison. We wouldn't put that on our food. That doesn't sound right. Check out these cucumbers. This is a great way to kind of harvest your cucumbers. You can have your cucumber tunnel. You got cucumbers coming out every day. We have so many that we're able to give them away. Right here, we have our carrots. This is our 3rd crop of carrots this year. Kale. This kale has been growing since it was late winter, and we just keep on cutting off the bottom leaves. It's all organic, super nutrient dense. We've got our green zucchini right here. Look at this in here. There's one of our green zucchinis, got ready to slice up and eat. Check out these tomatoes over here. We've got both your cherry tomatoes and then your bigger varieties. We use heirloom varieties. We do spray neem oil. All right, that's an organic control for pesticide and fungus. We'll spray that on there, and that'll control it. You may not wipe out all of your squash bugs, but you can use neem oil and then you can manually clean those out. But look at those nice little yellow zucchini. Those are going to be really tasty. Our rainbow chard is still going strong this year. And come check out this pepper plant. This is amazing. Look at all these peppers. Look at all these big organic peppers. We're going to have to freeze some of these, give some of these away. We have a massive amount of peppers. They've been growing so well this year. Plenty of rainfall. Just couldn't be happier with how this garden's going. This area we actually were able to purchase just a few years ago. They logged it previously, but we've been able to pick up right off where things were left off before, you know, get the forest growing a little bit more mature. And you can see they're really bouncing back from the last time they got harvested. This is an electric UTV, and it's not like the fancy newer electric UTVs. This is an older model. We replaced the lead acid batteries with lithium ion batteries. With the lithium ion battery, we can go like 8 or 9 miles, whereas the lead acid batteries, within a couple of years, you're only going like a half mile, and then you have to charge it. Here's our goat pasture. I don't know why, but as soon as they see the UTV, a lot of them will just take off. They think maybe we have something for them. But these are Boer goats. Most of them actually belong to our daughters. They've thinned them out quite a bit. Our daughters have raised these, shown them, sold a lot of them. They bought their cars with money mostly from selling Boer goats. And I just like them because they eat everything. They're just a great animal to have out here. We've never put any herbicides or poisons on our pastures. Goats fill that role in the ecosystem. It's gotten to the point where we don't even call them weeds because they're just useful plants. They're forage for our animals, not to mention all the carbon that goes back in. I mean,
How do you keep them safe?
in the Ozarks here, like I was saying, you have mountain lions in this area. There's pictures of bears on our game cameras, a lot of bobcats, coyotes. So a lot of people think, oh, you must have terrible problems with predators. And we really don't. One of the things we do is we don't remove the goat's horns, and they're pretty formidable, really. I mean, I've gotten torn up a couple of times trying to wrangle some goats. And so if you're a coyote, like, you don't want to get torn up by some of these goat horns. So they're really formidable, and we try to keep that wildness. You know, we don't try to breed it out of them. And what differentiates Cold Spring Farm from other goat operations, and our goat operation actually is specifically called Ice Cold Boers. It's our kind of like our trademark Boers. We have some of those show qualities like the broodiness, the meatiness, the fast growth, but then ours are raised on pasture in forests and meadows, and they're raised the way that goats are supposed to be raised, which means they have a really varied diet. They talk to us. We're gonna see if we can tempt these girls to move to the next paddock. They're kind of in a high and dry location right now because we got a ton of rain, which is awesome. And so today is their first day going on to the native warm season grass prairie. Ready, girls? They're like, hell no, we're not going out in the sun. Let's see. So this pond, we built this on the homestead for different reasons. You do a big project like this, you better have a few reasons because it's difficult to build a pond. So a pond like this is just a perfect backup for cattle water. And then, you know, the wildlife benefits. If you sit out here, within 20, 30 minutes, you're gonna see raccoons come up. I've seen an egret and I've seen a blue heron use this pond. We've seen ducks, geese, just a nice feature to have all the way around. That was a lot of work. It was probably a week long. And it probably ran $2,500 to $3,000 in equipment rental and fuel. But in the end, I'm pretty happy with the pond. We put catfish and bass and bluegill and sunfish in there too. My youngest, the first fish that he ever caught was here, and everything was worth it right there. You know, that's priceless, yeah.
Is there a point where they become hamburger, or are you selling?
Oh yeah. You know, when you raise animals for meat, you have to kind of look at it as if you're the predator. Humans think that they're not part of nature, but you really are. And you are a predator. And so when you're raising meat animals, it's a good thing when you identify those animals that are weaker or it's just their time. And that's going to become your meat. Now, obviously, you know, if the animal's unhealthy, you're not going to butcher that. But you do need to select your herd so that your genetics get better year after year. And only the best and strongest ones with the best growth and the best health, those would be the ones that live. And so you just put that predator eye on whenever it comes time to select for your meat, and your herds will get better and better.
When did you know you wanted a homestead?
When I was growing up, I always wanted to be outdoors. My dad was a coal miner, and we lived in the country, but we didn't exactly have a farm. So I always liked being in the country. I liked being outdoors, farms, field, forests. And then once my wife and I started having children, we just decided we wanted our kids to be able to appreciate that same type of a lifestyle. My wife's from Italy, and like a lot of places in the world, we couldn't very easily afford land in Italy because a lot of times people just don't let it out of their families. But we found that there were just huge opportunities in the United States, and we did kind of a nationwide property search. And honestly, this was just the cheapest land that we could find that got a decent amount of rainfall, and so that was it. That's where we decided to land. This farm and this homestead is just such a special place. In fact, since we've lived here, we've found different artifacts, some of these dating back to 10,000 years ago, during the Archaic period. This is just a sample. I mean, the last people to see these before we picked them off the ground had never seen a piece of metal. I mean, they were hunting large game, and they had never seen a piece of pottery, never seen glass, never seen any technology. This place has been able to support life for thousands and thousands of years. It has the biodiversity, the ecosystem. And basically all you have to do is take care of that, be a good steward, and not abuse it, just be part of it. We're also sitting right in front of this stone chimney, and you just realize that whoever was here, they were willing to break themselves on this land to make whatever they could to raise a family, to survive, to live the best way that they could. And it's what people have been doing right here for thousands of years. We've got to live in a way so that many generations down the line, people might look at the things that we made and think, you know what, those people, they were okay, they were human. In our lifetimes, we've seen a lot of change. Growing up in the 80s, we're like the Cold War kids. You had these two nuclear powers on the brink of total annihilation. And we all grew up that way, and you know, you're just a Cold War kid, that's just the way it is. And then you have other situations, you know, you have pandemics, supply chain issues, and thousands of products that are absolutely critical to run your agriculture, your food production, necessities that you need, you know, for your homes, for clean water, for transportation. And if any one of a myriad of resources becomes scarce, then the whole thing can come crumbling down. I guess that's a good time to kind of introduce the book, because I talk about this quite a bit in my book, Thrive in the Coming Dark Age, How to Build the Ultimate Survival Homestead. You know, catastrophic events that could happen to your society, to your civilization, there's actually a way where you can thrive. And that was one of the things that I saw also being deployed. You know, you see these people who literally their society stopped functioning. If you don't have peace, you don't have anything. You can raise your family. They can get their hands in the dirt. They can grow things. They can build things. They can create things.
I think our kids, especially our older ones, they have learned that when you want to get something, you work for it and you're definitely going to get it.
By putting a sustainable homesteading operation on top of an existing farm, in our case livestock production, you're kind of doubling up on your knowledge. So what we've been able to do is learn so much quicker about how to raise livestock, how to take care of cattle, how to take care of pastures, how to care for goats.
A lot of self-learning. Mistakes, you know, mistakes gets made, and next time you do better.
Do you preserve food?
We do. I just canned a bunch of cherry pie because we had such a great pie harvest.
Oh, this was a great year for cherries. And then you have the cheese knowledge.
Yeah, I've done
in
cheese.
the family. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of goat cheese.
And that's what you do. I mean, your refrigerator gets full of goat milk, so you just make goat cheese.
So this is your food forest we're in right now.
Yeah, this is part of it. These are actually Bing cherries, these two. They were producing this year. I didn't know if we would ever have sweet cherries, and this year we finally had a good amount of sweet cherries.
Do you guys have deer pressure here you got to worry about?
We do, and mostly because they want to rub their antlers on things. Those are pears in the middle. The biggest one are pears.
Oh.
But like this tree right here is a cherry tree. And the reason that it's not straight up and down is because of deer. When it was littler, and maybe even every year after that, a deer comes and rubs its antlers along the tree and kind of tears it up. This is a cherry tree that got torn up in the same way. You can see the deer will rub on the bottom. And purple cone flowers are just now starting. So the echinacea, if you have a cold in the winter, you drink some elderberry syrup and some echinacea tea, and it's really going to fix you right up. There's also yellow cone flowers in here. We have the ironweed, which is about to start flowering. There's sensitive briar. There's the black-eyed Susan, daisies in here. If you have an orchard like this, you need those wild pollinators to pollinate your fruit. So if you plant a pollinator garden like this, you'll always have an abundance of butterflies, bees. We've even seen hummingbird moths down here. It's one of our favorite spots on the farm. But thanks again. We've really been happy to show everyone around and kind of share what our lifestyle has been all about. If you'd like to learn more about it, again, my book is Thrive in the Coming Dark Age, How to Build the Ultimate Survival Homestead. It's been a bestseller on Amazon for several months in the survival category. I also wrote Seculum Collapse, and this is sort of a deep dive mind experiment about what it would be like if there was a collapse and you had to rely on your off-grid skills and your homesteading skills. Also, you can check me out on homesteadranger.com or at the Homestead Ranger YouTube channel. And we're going to be putting out a lot of interesting content. We have a lot of surprises, and we've been doing it for a while, but we have a little bit of adventure left in us still.
Yep. Thanks for watching.
Thanks again, everybody.